Telepathic transmission from Arahat Athersata. Wednesday, the 12th of May, 1976, 9/11.
Another time, my thoughts come to you to give you things of truth that you asked for. It is I who speak to you, Arahat Athersata, for a request has come to me through higher forms for answering a question from your plane, which is pros and cons of contact with life forms in past form, which have gone away from your material world and have passed over into the plane of the spiritual, which is of you called the hereafter. So then receive the values of my thoughts and write them down faithfully according to the given value of truth, faithful to each syllable as you are accustomed to in honesty. There has been the question about the pros or cons of contact with life forms of a nature beyond, which are the spirit forms of the dead according to human values, and which are in the realms of a spiritual level. The question is to be answered with all clarity, with a comprehensive no, because such contacts should not try to be cultivated in the form of invocations and incantations, which is called after earthly sense as incantation of the dead and spiritism. If the human being on earth lives in a volutive task and perceives alleged disturbances from otherworldly realms as annoying and inhibiting the evolution, this would also be the case in the otherworldly realms if earth humans of material form could force them to communicate. The human being on earth has his task to fulfill his evolution, but so also the forms on the other side have their task to fulfill. If, however, they were disturbed by invocations and incantations, then their evolution would be hindered and strongly impaired. So would it also be the case if the earthly man from the otherworldly realms were harassed in the same way. So this is a reason why no incantation of the dead and invocation of the dead should be practiced by the terrestrial human being, because he thereby obstructed the course of evolution in the otherworldly realm. If he would be capable of such action, and since he would not be able to clothe logical forms of thought in logical questions and would therefore endanger many things, a contact with otherworldly forms is also impossible for him. The human being on earth should be aware of the fact that a form of life that has changed from this world to the hereafter has no more knowledge in the hereafter than it has acquired in material life. So consequently, it would not be able to transmit any higher values of knowledge or higher truths. A form of life on the other side would therefore only be able to reproduce what it contained in itself as a material form of life in terms of knowledge or ignorance. But it is certainly not her own in the realm of the afterlife to be able and allowed to call the concerns of the afterlife to the terrestrial human being, so that descriptions of realms beyond can never take place, neither from the sphere itself nor from the forms of life. However, it is now characteristic of the human being on earth not to adhere to the creative laws and commandments, and not to the all-cosmic order. Therefore, he thinks up laws and commandments himself according to his own discretion and will, and acts freely according to them. For this reason, he also strives to be spiritistically active in the form that he carries out incantations of the dead and invocations, and wants to force certain otherworldly forces to answer. Fortunately, however, it should be mentioned that in this way, only a few people on Earth actually try to disrupt evolutionary life in the realm of the afterlife, while the great mass of the necromancers of the dead and other callers in their fellow human beings only produce imaginations that lead to self-deception and subconscious contacts with other living people, which often lead to the materialization of ectoplasmic forms and the materialization of desires or compulsions of any objects or human forms. But all this rests in deceit, self-deception, confirmation with other subconscious, conscious, and unconscious rectification of thought, and many other factors. Beyond life forms themselves never appear in the material world, not even for conditional evolutionary reasons, or which might be connected with reconnecting concerns to certain living earthmen, or certain material things which might be of significance to them. For if they have gone away from the earth realm, earthly life is accomplished and overcome for them. Consequently, there must be no habituation in the beyond realms, as is unrealistically assumed by earthmen. So it should also be explained to the human being on earth that reconnecting tendencies only exist when certain strong fluid forces vibrate into the planes of the present, but whereby no transitions to or from the hereafter can take place. This would be a disturbance of peace for the otherworldly realm if the Earthman would be able to form contacts by invocation or incantation. If man on Earth becomes mischievous or evil in the event of disturbances, the beings of other planes would also be equally susceptible, and consequently they would react accordingly in mischievous or evil form, so there would be no reliance on their statements if they were called upon and disturbed. Let it be explained, man of the Earth. If you want to call upon the realms of the hereafter, you run the risk of your own deception in manifold forms. Through the mischief and malice of your own misguidance, you are falsely informed by yourself and classified in illogical thoughts, for you are not yet capable of the power of your consciousness to ask questions in logic, which in turn would require a logical answer. Only a few life forms of your kind would be able to make contacts with other dimensioned life forms in all given legal forms at the present time. But there are so few of them that you can count them on your hands. These forms of life, however, are knowledgeable and truly capable, which is why they do not reveal themselves to you as being connected to other dimensions, but have nothing to do with the hereafter. Only the three of them disregard the commandments and manifest themselves, but without applying their skill, in the lands you call England, Russia, and India. May you beware, man of the earth, of entering into the invocation and invocation of otherworldly realms, for in your consciousness it is only to your detriment that it is misleading. To make many forms of spiritual invocations and invocations popular with earthly men. All in all, however, it is nothing more than fraud and self-deception, hallucination and mischief. It is the human being of the earth's own, uncontrollably to generate forces of consciousness and to make them effective, whereby many forms of manifestation can be evoked, which, however, are only deception and of deceptive authenticity. But it also lies in the uncontrollable power of the terrestrial man to penetrate through his subconscious into the subconscious of his neighbor, to connect with him and thereby cause deceptive phenomena, such as the faithful reproduction of event details of earlier times and the faithful reproduction of voices of long-gone ones. It is thus explained that such action is based only on the fact that the subconscious of a form of life is addressed by a false medium, reveals its knowledge, and transfers itself into the subconscious of the medium. The power of its knowledge thus acquired manifests these experiences as the reproduction of voices and memories. Thus it is said that in this form no afterlife contacts take place, but an unconscious fraud and self-deception is present, since only the subconscious of a neighbor or the storage bank is addressed and forced to the release of knowledge, which is called by the medium soon after as afterlife contact. This is a form of subconscious telepathy, which is not recognized as such by the ignorant earth humans, because if he lacks the knowledge about the concerns of mind and consciousness and its powers, he cannot register any evaluation and recognition of these things. It is very great that the uncontrolled power of consciousness of the human being of the earth is able to produce phenomena through these, to which he ascribes false values, as also in the phenomena of ectoplasmic forms, which, generated by his own imagination, materialize, but which are nothing else than compressions of forces of the most diverse forms, depending on the pictorial nature of the desired ideas of the medium or of the seance participants. So in most manifestations, they are also only fraud or self-deception or hallucinations or violently enforced manifestations of uncontrollable forces of consciousness unknown to the terrestrial human being. This, man of the earth, is the answer to your question about the pros and cons of contact with life forms of a nature beyond, which are the spirit forms of the deceased according to earth human values. May you, man of the earth, follow this teaching if you do not inhibit yourself in your evolution, for these concerns still mean danger for you are not yet aware of the great truth, and, by an act of invoking and conjuring up alleged beyond forces, do misfortune in ignorance, and fall prey to unreal teachings.